It's time for Toker Talk Radio, the voice of the marijuana nation.
What are you people? On dope?
Or you can toke.
I inhale frequently.
Or you can talk.
I experimented with marijuana and didn't inhale.
Or you can toke and talk.
10 federal criminal penalties for possession of up to 1 ounce of marijuana.
While we talk about toke on Toker Talk Radio.
So, by the way, when it comes to pot, if you're 40 years old, you live in a log cabin in Oregon, you got 12 giant pot plants in your backyard, have a ball.
Live from beautiful Portland, Oregon at Rolla J Studios.
Hey, this is great. Just like cannabis.
Plus your calls live at 971-533-7111.
They're walking on their pants with their cap on backwards, listening to Enema Man and Snoopy Poop Dog.
What's to keep somebody from getting all potted up on weed and then getting behind the wheel? Gateway theory doesn't work. It's a reality.
Holland, is it real? Don't tease me.
We're locking up people that take a couple of puffs of marijuana, and the next thing you know, they got 10 years.
And now, here's your host, the guru of ganja graphics, the sultan of sativa statistics, and the worst nightmare of a reefer-mad prohibitionist. A polite, perspicacious, productive pothead with a propensity for PowerPoint. Radical Russ Belville.
Hey! Welcome back, everyone. It's Hour 2, Toker Talk Radio. Glad to have y'all here on Tuesday. We had the day off yesterday for the federal holiday. Although I have to say that I do not take off Columbus Day in any sort of celebration of Christopher Columbus. That raping, murdering, genocidal, torturing bastard. No.
We don't talk about that.
But I got to take a day off every now and then. Just because it's, oh, there we are. Sorry. Get that a little closer there for Brian the Red. And, but it was great talking to the guys from Ireland, I got to say. And if you were listening to the interview earlier, Kevin was on earlier this morning. I did a pre-record with him. And then Luke was on live. So we kind of blended those two together, and I hope that came out okay. Electric Bob says I could have taken the day off to celebrate Canadian Thanksgiving. That's a good point. Canadian Thanksgiving's earlier. So, could have done that, that's for sure.
Sure, why not?
Why not? So, we hope you're celebrating out there and hope things are going well for you. We've got some great topics to cover today on Hour 2. After the next break, I'm going to talk about this latest study on car crash risk based on drug use and what it tells us about pot and driving. I'll tell you what, it doesn't tell us something we didn't already know. And then later on, after the 20 after break, we're going to talk about defelonization. And this is something that, we have a lot of these terms in the community. Legalization, medicalization, decriminalization, deprioritization, and defelonization. And all of these are different little levels of attack on prohibition laws, okay? And they've been used to successfully set the stage for greater reforms. Sometimes I think we get a little frustrated because we know the truth, right? And we know cannabis is relatively harmless, and we know it's insane to be able to tolerate alcohol and tobacco, but try to restrict cannabis. So we know the truth, and so it becomes plainly self-evident that it should be legal and the people using it shouldn't be prosecuted, and we just want it legal now. I want to grow my plants. I want to have my weed now. And let go all the pot prisoners now. And, that's laudable and that's understandable. But in politics is the art of the possible, and sometimes it takes steps to get these things done. The deprioritization is probably, it's almost the least you can do. In fact, there's only one step less, and that would be just one of those symbolic statement votes, like in Massachusetts, they have the public policy questions where they can say, should the lawmaker of this district vote in favor of supporting the medical uses of cannabis? And the county can vote yes or no, or the district can vote yes or no, and everybody goes, great. That's it, because it really doesn't force anything. It just kind of says, hey, lawmaker, you ought to do this. So that's about the least you can do, but we don't really have that in every U.S. state. The next level will be the deprioritization. This is where the people vote, and it depends on if you have home rule in your locality, right? Which is, do you have the power under your state constitution and your local laws and stuff? Do you have the power to be able to create your own laws to regulate certain things? And if you do, then one of the tactics that's available is deprioritization, which is to say the police officials, the law enforcement, should treat marijuana crimes as the lowest law enforcement priority. After you've solved all the other crimes, then you can spend some time on pot. And this was used in many, many, many cities, Seattle being one of the most notable ones that voted long ago to make it the lowest law enforcement priority. Denver did the same thing. Lots of places that have what are very liberal marijuana laws now started that with deprioritization laws at the local level. Well, the story we're going to get to after the 20 break is on defelonization. This is taking crimes that are charged as felonies and trying to reduce them to being charged as misdemeanors. This is something we did in Oregon this year. We had a major reform. We defelonized the possession of marijuana between 1 ounce and 4 ounces. Up to a quarter pound now is defelonized. It's a misdemeanor. You can go to jail. You can get a fine. You got a criminal record. But at least it's not a felony, right? So there's a law that was coming up in California to defelonize a lot of drug crimes, and Governor Brown vetoed it. We're going to talk about that when we get half past on the show. And then later on, toward the end of the show, I've got video that we recorded Friday night when myself, Bacon Dan, Ganja Jon, Snap, and Stoney all went to the Ed Forman show in downtown Portland. And the video I've got tonight is myself and Ganja Jon appearing as guests on the Ed Forman show, which is kind of a late night talk show in a bar with a live band and a lot of dick jokes. So it's not safe for work necessarily, but I hope you enjoy it.
That's why we got an hour 2.
That's why it's an hour 2, people. And I saw Gravity the other night, the movie Gravity with Sandra Bullock and what's his name? George Clooney.
Oh.
Fantastic movie. I heartily recommend it. That's why I got the Hubble Deep Field up behind us.
You hardly recommend it?
Heartily.
Oh, heartily.
I heartily recommend it. Although
we hear what we want to hear.
Although I got this thing about 3D, because it was in 3D, right? Does every 3D movie have to, like, in every frame have something float, like dust-like floating in my foreground?
It doesn't have to, but they think that it adds to the 3D.
We'll talk about that too.
Constantly there.
We'll talk about that too. On Toker Talk Radio.
The Russ Belville Show is blogging and podcasting daily at RadicalRuss.com.
Hey, Tokers and Tokettes, Radical Russ here to introduce you to my friend Matt and all the staff at Lush LED Lighting. Growing plants indoors can be a rewarding hobby, but electricity bills can go through the roof. Then you have to cool down all those big hot lights. It can drive a grower insane. With Lush LED Lighting, you can solve many of these issues and double your rewards. If you thought LEDs were meet the tech of today, Matt and his scientists have developed the perfect light for flowering plants with far less cost and heat. And the results? Let's just say I appear at a lot of events with the masters of indoor horticulture, and the harvests I saw from Lush LED Lighting were big, tight, sticky, and very effective. Check out LushLEDlighting.com right now and tell them Radical Russ sent you. Double your rewards and lower your expenses with Lush LED Lighting. I'm Radical Russ Belville, and I want to thank you for listening to 420 Radio. We couldn't survive without you and our sponsors, and I'd like you to check out one of our prime sponsors, the National Cannabis Coalition. I've been working with NCC since June of 2012, and I'm proud to be part of the team they have assembled. National Cannabis Coalition is building the partnerships with reformers, lawmakers, and industry we need to be successful. Visit the National Cannabis Coalition website at nationalcannabiscoalition.com or the easier-to-remember ncc420.com. That's where you'll get the exclusive first look at my radical rants, as well as informative articles from the nation's top cannabis pundits. Visit ncc420.com today, and if you have your phone handy, text Russ to 420-420 to support NCC and 420 Radio. It's a free text message that helps us help you end adult marijuana prohibition. Learn more at ncc420.com, and thanks for supporting independent marijuana legalization public radio. Welcome back, everyone. 10 after the hour here 420radio.org. Make sure you check out our website, now mobile friendly. You can always get our live audio through the TuneIn app on your smartphone as well. Become a VIP member of 420 Radio and you get access to extra posts that most people don't see, including our Roots Monday, Electric Tuesday, Ivory Wednesday, Groovin' Thursday, Rockin' Friday music posts and podcast downloads, and the replays of Toker Talk Radio, video and MP3 download and podcast, available only to the VIP members of 420 Radio. You can join for as little as $9.99 a month. And remember, that $9.99 is directly paying the bills here. You're keeping the stream on the air and helping get this information out to the vast audience on Ustream, YouTube, Stitcher, TuneIn, iTunes, and our blog at 420radio.org. Check it out today.
What a plethora of...
A veritable plethora of items on our blog.
Of mobile items. It is amazing.
It's absolutely beautiful. All right, so also in schedule news, let you know tonight at 8 o'clock Pacific time, we have got another edition of the new show, Thrasher Sports. That's right. Yeah. Herb Thrasher and I will be talking football. A lot of great football games to talk about. And coming up at 5 p.m. Pacific, we've got the Weed Nerd. Weed Nerd with Subcool and Ms. Jill. You want to check that out. All right. Let's get back to talking about this story. I covered it in the news in hour one. A new study that's out, and this is in the journal Accident Analysis and Prevention. The study's called Drug Use and Fatal Motor Vehicle Crashes, a Case Control Study. The lead author on the study is named Dr. Guoha Lee, and I'll probably totally mispronounce that. We'll just say Dr. Lee from now on. Dr. Lee said, quote, I would say even though there are risks associated with the use of marijuana, it seems to be not as big as other drugs like depressants, stimulants, and other narcotics, end quote. They also found, quote, that well, I'll just tell you, what they're doing is they're calculating odds ratios. And what it is the correlation of the detection of a certain drug or drugs in your system with whether or not you ended up in a fatal car crash. Right? So what they do is they get a bunch of data. There was like 737 drivers that they pulled up information from 2007 that were involved in fatal crashes. And that they had, and then they also had a comparison of data from surveys, these roadside surveys, where they test either the blood or the saliva or both of drivers for specific drugs. These include illegal drugs like coke, meth, heroin, cannabis, so on, and legal drugs, benzodiazepines and narcotics and stimulants and so on, and alcohol, right? And so they take this data, they put it in the big hopper, data blender, whatever you want to call it, and they run analysis on it to find out what is the association of the detection of a certain drug in your system versus your risk of a car crash. Now, the baseline of this, of course, would be people who have no drugs in their system, right? No drugs, no alcohol, which, of course, doesn't mean you're not going to get in a crash. Plenty of people that are perfectly sober get into crashes, but their risk would be the baseline. And as an odds ratio, you would say that's a 1-to-1 risk. Their risk is baseline, 1-to-1. You got the average chance of getting into a fatal car wreck. And then we want to know, when we take a look at people and we detect drugs in their system, is that risk greater than or less than someone who's completely sober? Now, no matter what drug they detected, there was a greater risk, including marijuana. This is not to say the risk is necessarily causal. Could be a causal relationship, could also be a lot of other factors we'll discuss in a second. But anyway, what was the difference? What was the change? Well, what they found with cannabis, and in this case we're talking about cannabis being detected either as THC in blood, active impairing THC in your blood, or the THC metabolite in your saliva, which we all know tells us nothing about whether you're impaired. Just says that you are someone who's smoked pot. So Dr. Lee and his associates, they calculated how much more likely someone on cannabis would be to get in a fatal car crash compared to someone who was completely sober. And what they found was a 1.81 to 1 odds ratio. 1.81. That means about an 81% greater chance of a fatal accident. Although Kevin Sabet and folks like that like to round that up and say twice the chance. That would be a 2 to 1 odds ratio. This is a 1.81 ratio. So it's less than twice the chance. And again, we're talking just a correlation, an association here. Doesn't necessarily mean anyone was too impaired to drive. In fact, my general thinking on this is you detect THC in a lot of people. Only a small percentage of them are actually impairedly high at the time, and they throw it off for the rest of us. But that, whole nother rant, we'll have to do a whole nother study on that. But check out the odds ratios for some of these other drugs. Now, when they took a look at narcotics, the odds ratio was 3.03 to 1. Triple the risk of a car crash if you're on a narcotic. And some of these narcotics include things like OxyContin, Vicodin, and Dilaudid. Stimulants came in at a 3.57 to 1 odds ratio. Remember, cannabis was 1.81. So stimulants were more than twice the risk than cannabis was, almost twice the risk cannabis was. And that includes such legal prescription drugs as Adderall, Ritalin, and phentermine. Depressants came in with a 4.83 to 1 risk. Almost 5 times greater risk than a sober driver. 3 times a greater risk than a cannabis driver. And some of these depressants include prescription drugs like Ativan, Valium, and Klonopin. And yet, each one of those medications carries a warning on the label that says, "Until you know how this medication may affect you, don't drive or operate heavy machinery." But I guess once you do know the effects, we can trust you to manage the risk. We trust them with the 3 to 1, the 3.57 to 1, and the 4.83 to 1, but somehow we're really concerned about the 1.81 to 1 risk. Now, of course, the biggest drug risk in the list was the legal one you don't need a prescription for, alcohol. Its odds ratio, all by itself, no other drugs in the system, was a whopping 13.64 to 1. 13 to 1. The risk was even worse for alcohol by itself than it was for people who were found to have had multiple drugs in their system. Multiple drugs in the system only led to a 3.41 odds ratio compared to 13.64 for just alcohol. And yet, we seem to accept that drivers that have less than a 0.08 blood alcohol content can drive safely enough for us to legally tolerate. Now, this is not to say you should pull massive bong rips and then get behind the wheel. It's not responsible to drive with any kind of impairment, period. Whether you're too tired to drive, too angry to drive, too distracted to drive, it doesn't matter. You shouldn't be driving impaired. And drinking plus toking got the worst odds ratio of them all. It was 23.24 to 1. But if we consider how much risk we allow adults to manage with these much more dangerous drugs and alcohol, it's time we reject this alarmist anti-stone driving legislation that ignores the science on the issue. People are more likely, in fact, I remember Paul Armentano saying one time that the odds ratio on antihistamines was something like 1.92 to 1 or something like that, was even greater than cannabis.
Yeah, than just cannabis alone. Yeah.
It's ridiculous. And I would furthermore like to see these numbers teased out a bit to find actual impairing THC in blood. Because so long as they're still doing the saliva collection and detecting unimpairing marijuana metabolites, we're not really getting an accurate picture of the data. It could be, who knows, it could be the odds ratio on impairing levels of THC is much worse than the 1.81. And maybe those of us who have lower than, say, 15 to 20 nanograms might be lower than 1.81. But let's find out. Now that it's legal in a couple of states, I hope we can get the data together to really get some answers on stoned driving. But for now, we're just going to be stoned pilots in space, I guess.
Yes, we pilot our computers quite well through cyberspace.
It's all right, man. I know how to pilot when I'm stoned.
Have you ever met that funny reefer man? A reefer man. Have you ever met that funny reefer man? A reefer man. If he said he swam to China, he would sell you South Carolina. Then you know you're talking to that reefer man.
The law offices of Omar Figueroa would like to remind you to stand up for your rights. Please do not give up your precious liberties. There's nothing wrong with standing up for our constitutional rights, and in fact, it's the only way to honor the Constitution that recognizes our natural rights. Treat law enforcement with respect, and respect the Constitution by standing up for your rights. If you are detained or arrested, stand up for your rights by repeating, I respectfully invoke all my legal and constitutional rights. I do not consent to any search and seizure, I want to remain silent, and I want to speak to my attorney, Omar Figueroa. Omar Figueroa has more than a decade of experience in federal and California courts and graduated from Yale University, Stanford Law School, and Trial Lawyers College. Please contact the law offices of Omar Figueroa at 415-489-0420 or 707-829-0215 or on the web at www.omarfigueroa.com.
Let him bring in the beat.
Adam Hand of Handmade Apparel produces quality custom designs for t-shirts, hats, and other apparel. Handmade Apparel is the official design shop for 420 Radio, The Russ Belville Show, Ganja Jon, and Cascadia Concentrates, among many clients who rely on Adam Hand for everything from short-run custom projects to full-run clothing lines. Adam's meticulous designs are individually crafted and screened in vibrant, high-definition color. Visit handmadeapparel.biz to browse the selection of handmade gear or to get a personal quote for your own designs. Handmade Apparel, a proud supporter of 420radio.org.
Let him bring in the beat.
420radio.org presents our live original production of Red Eyes Reggae Flashback with Brian the Red every Wednesday night, live at 8 p.m. Pacific Time, with replays Thursday at 10 a.m., Fridays at 3 a.m., and a 2-hour block every weekend, Saturday and Sunday, starting at midnight. The best deep reggae tracks and roots rhythms with Brian the Red, right here on 420radio.org.
Welcome back, everybody. 23 after the hour here, live at Toker Talk Radio from Rolla J Studios in beautiful Portland, Oregon, where it has been exceptionally beautiful.
Yeah,
been
quite
some
nice
sunny
stuff,
days.
Yeah, unfortunately, a few outdoor gardens that I helped with don't exist anymore. So
did they all get ripped?
No, bud rot got
okay.
into, so we had to take down a little bit premature. Unfortunately, the Northwest doesn't have the best weather for outdoor grows in the city, but whatever.
Oh well.
Yeah.
It is harvest time. We want to remind everyone to be careful. Here in Oregon, our laws do not allow you to use deadly force in the protection of your outdoor grow or your outdoor property. The only time you can use deadly force is in your home. If someone breaks into your home, is trying to steal stuff, that's the only time you can use deadly force. And the problem this has led to is a man here in Oregon, in Portland, as a matter of fact, who caught somebody, I'm going to see if he's a teenager, I don't know the age, but caught somebody ripping his garden, went out and shot him in the leg, and then stood over him with the gun until the cops showed up. He called the cops. Yep. Somebody tried to rip my garden. I shot him in the leg. Here, I got him. He's facing like second-degree assault,
with
attempted murder, deadly weapon, all sorts of charges.
God. Total bullshit.
Yeah. Although, I don't advocate, shooting people. It's not necessarily a good thing. And especially if someone's just trying to steal something and not trying to harm you, I mean, that's a different level. But once they're in your house, you have to assume they're there to harm you. When they're outside, I don't know. I always wanted to just hook up, loudspeakers and just assault them with loud sound effects.
Well, there are certain frequencies that will make people bleed from their ears.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Sonic
that.
disruptor technology. That's been around for quite some time. The CIA uses it in interrogations. But that's another story.
All right. Trippy.
But no, there are certain frequencies, South Park made fun of brown noise. Yeah. That would be great, if you could hook up the brown noise, amplified into your backyard, if somebody, an intruder comes through, they just crap themselves there and then they're too embarrassed to continue the riff.
How about that? All right, we got a call coming in live here at 971-533-7111 from right here in Oregon. You're on the air with Toker Talk Radio.
What's up, Russ? It's Canada Justice. How you doing?
Hey, we're doing great.
What's going on, bud?
Hey. Well, I've actually missed the show for a minute, but today I caught it. It's my office day, so
welcome.
Nice to see you guys.
Welcome back.
Anyways, so like my whole theory is that I met multiple people, and certain people, when they smoke, they act way different, and it's because we generally scientifically we're all sacks of chemicals, and so chemicals react with chemicals differently, and we're different mixtures of chemicals, Yeah. So of course things are going to affect different people in a different way, and it makes total sense. What was that? Where was that study from again?
It was in the Journal of, it was Analytical Toxicology, I think. I have to pull up the document here for a second. And, it was a Dr. Kwahong Lee, and let me find the study here. It was in Accident Analysis and Prevention. That was the journal. Accident Analysis and Prevention.
Cool. Yeah. No, I mean, I can't believe it's the whole, and the way they do the CBDs, not CBD, the testing. I bet when I wake up in the morning, I'm probably at, I don't know, what's the highest level? Can you glow THC?
Well, when you first inhale THC, either vaporized or through smoking, your THC in blood skyrockets. It's like over 100 or 200, in the 100 to 200 nanogram range. And then within the next hour, for most people, it's going to drop below 20. If you're a constant user, probably.
Yeah. Now, if you're eating something, the effects are kind of, flipped. It takes longer for it to, come on and will last quite some time. You could end up, eating a brownie or something that's super potent at night, and then depending on when you wake up, you could still be feeling the effects.
Okay. Right on. That's awesome. Yeah. Anyways, you guys are doing a good job, and Lane County normal. We're going to rock it.
All right, man. Good luck in Lane County.
See you guys.
And go Ducks, man.
Yeah.
All right. And that brings something up, too, is like, of course, it's famous that, Washington State passed I-502 with the 5 nanogram limit, and Denver, Colorado, I should say, went around and finally passed a bill with a 5 nanogram limit. And it's one of those, depends on how you look at it kind of things, because compared to a lot of other states that have like 0 tolerance or 2 nanograms, I guess it's good. But compared to what the science is, it sucks. Because there's not a reliable number like there is for alcohol that relates directly to how messed up you are. With alcohol, you know this from being in bars or seeing that little chart that they publish. They show this is how much you weigh, and this is how many drinks you had in the past hour, and there's how messed up you'd be.
Whether it's how long we got to keep you in the tank.
Yeah, whether it's in the green and the yellow or the red, right? And that's a pretty reliable indicator. A big guy like me, just generally speaking, can down more shots than a skinny guy like Brian.
Well, you'd think.
But generally speaking, generally speaking,
yeah.
That would be the case as far as how impaired we'd be. And again, there's the exceptions for people who are alcoholics or with high tolerance or whatever it might be. But as a scientific fact, generally speaking,
yes,
amount of weight, amount of alcohol, reliable number.
Yeah, the metabolism of said substance in, said, weight of person, it's, there is a correlation. But.
Now, the problem with marijuana, cannabis, THC, is you don't get that. It doesn't exist. Someone who's a newbie, when they first smoke pot, is a giggling jackass, right? Probably don't want him behind the wheel. But someone who's been smoking for a long time, like Brian or me, could smoke a joint while driving and not be too high to be able to drive.
Or 2 or 3.
Yeah, depending, right?
Depends.
So that's part of
the
issue too, and the fact that people develop tolerances, and where a newbie who smoked pot an hour ago and is at 7 nanograms right now would probably be too impaired to be reliable behind the wheel. Someone who smokes all day every day probably wakes up at 7 or 10 or 15 nanograms and would be perfectly fine to drive. We saw All Day Addie in the KIRO news thing driving at, 11 times the limit, was she?
Yeah, she was like 20.
It's like 36 it was.
Yeah, she was 36
all the way at 36 before it started messing with her.
Mm-hmm, yep.
So that's the problem.
And she even admitted, she's like, oh, I should not be driving. But I got, security.
Got security here. What the hell?
People are here to watch over me,
And that's where we have the problem, trying to set some sort of limit based on just a specific number. Let's go back to our phones here. We've got, I believe this is Electric Bob on the line. Is that you, Bob?
Hello.
Oh, there he is. Sorry.
I had 971.
I see. Oh, you were trying to call early and had 917. Yeah. 917-533-7111 is apparently some sexy woman.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I don't know. That's what they're saying in the chat room. What's up, Bob?
To touch up on what you were just talking about, if you have a tolerance, you can, and you know how to drive, there's no difference between you driving sober and driving after you smoked and let it set in for like an hour or two.
Actually, there's a little bit of difference. You're less stressed when you're smoking.
Yeah.
You don't
maybe less road rage.
You don't road rage.
There's that. Well, I'm not going to go and say that there's no difference. You might be slightly more impaired, but it might be the difference between being a 100% perfect driver and a 98.6% perfect driver. It's you might be a little more impaired, but I don't think it's to a level that deserves to be punished or we all assume some level of risk in allowing people to drive. Like, we let really old people drive, even though they have a higher risk of wrecking than people who have 5 nanograms of THC. That's a statistical fact.
But just here in Oregon,
they let I've seen stories and I've heard things that they let basically blind people drive.
Mm-hmm. Yep, just about.
Well, like legally blind, or like they got the real heavy prescription glasses or something.
I'm not for sure. I hope they wouldn't give it to someone who's legally blind, but I'm thinking it's someone who just has a really messed up vision.
Yeah. Well, for me, it's just a matter of consistency, and I just don't think. I think with marijuana, being it's the demon drug, oh no, it's the devil's lettuce, that we don't have any consistency on what risks as a society we're willing to take. For example, we have fast food restaurants all across this country, and we all know that the point of the fast food restaurant is for the person to get the fast food and eat it, and a lot of people are eating it in their car. And when you're eating in your car, you have a higher odds risk than if you're not eating in your car. And yet we completely accept it, and nobody ever makes a point of it. Have you ever seen an ad for don't eat fast food in your car while driving?
Nope. And then also, if you don't do it right, you could choke on it, crash into someone. If you're eating too fast,
burn yourself with coffee,
or you're just not paying attention and paying attention to your burger, and you just run down 10 people for no reason.
Mm-hmm.
And like I can walk out 5 minutes and there's a Taco Bell, Burger King, McDonald's, all right on the same block.
Mm-hmm.
I avoid them, but they're right there.
Yeah.
And that taps into obesity, but I'm not even going to go there.
Yeah.
But I'll touch up on something that's actually been going on here in Phoenix.
Okay, go ahead.
They're coming down hard on people making edibles because the law here, marijuana and cannabis are separate, and cannabis is a narcotic under the law, and it's described as any extract of a marijuana plant. So they just came out with a New Time story saying that even if you have a card, you're still probably going to go to jail for having any oils, and they're going to start testing. They said, oh yeah, we're going to start sending edibles down to the crime labs and make sure they don't have any extracts in them. So basically, if you're not making brownies with just just putting straight plant in there, they're gonna try to fuck with you.
That's insane. There's no way to tell the difference of where the THC in a brownie came from. It's not like the THC from a hash oil extract is any molecularly different than the THC from a decarboxylated flower. It's just there's a greater concentration of it. This would be they would be able to say, well, gee, then this brownie's got so much THC in it, it must have come from concentrate, and there's no scientific validation for making that kind of statement.
Well, there's no scientific validation on any of the laws.
Well, there we go. Ding. We have a winner, ladies and gentlemen. All right. Hey, well, thanks for calling in, Bob. And I'll take a look at that story and see if I can get it in the news in a coming up episode here. But right now, we've got to take a break. I want to thank everybody for calling in at 971-533-7111. But we're going to put the phones on hold for a moment because when we come back, we got Ganja Jon and me at the Ed Forman show last Friday. Good time was had by all.
We'll be right back after these messages from our 420 friendly sponsors. Support these advertisers because their ad money goes straight to the Russ Belville Show. You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation.
Herb Thrasher from the Herb Thrasher Flower Hour. Now get ready for Herb Age Designs for the proud cannabis consumer. Herb Age Designs, lifestyle gear for the 420 friendly. Herb Age Designs, home of the famous lighter leash. Herb Age Designs, get your Herb Age t-shirts and hoodies and show your pride. Herb Age Designs, we've got frisbee golf discs and durable hemp gear. Herb Age Designs, we've got shot glasses, drinking glasses, coffee mugs, and beer cozies. Check us out on Facebook and online at herbagedesigns.com. And follow Herb Age and Herb Thrasher on Twitter. We'll see you at this year's Hemp Fest. Crank it up!
Tokers, there's no good reason to get your dog stoned. While it might not harm them physically, imagine being a dog who already begs for treats all day, and then imagine that dog having the munchies. Not cool.
Welcome back, everyone. 4:37, actually 4:38 here in the Pacific Time Zone. Glad to have you with us here on Toker Talk Radio. And coming up next, I've got this video to show you from my appearance on the Ed Forman show with Ganja Jon. And if you don't know, Ed Forman, he's Portland's king of late night. He does a show in the Owl's Den, A-L, like a guy, right? Owl's Den, which is a basement bar off of 12th and West Burnside in downtown Portland, Oregon. It's part of the Crystal Hotel. It's a really nice place. You know, it's got a couple of bars in it, actually 3 bars, I think, if I remember correctly. But Ed Forman does this basically late night talk show, kind of raunchy, downstairs in this basement and live. Got a great live band called Them the Band. We've played him here on the show before as well. And I've been a guest on the Ed Forman show a number of times, 4 or 5 times. Bacon Dan's been working with Ed quite a bit, and they called us up, both myself and Ganja Jon, to be on the show. This last Friday is the first time Ganja Jon and I had appeared together, and been a long time since we appeared together anywhere. So check it out.
We drunk. These people are having an excellent time tonight. Yeah! Then let's keep it moving. People, are you ready for your next guests on the program? Let's bring them on to the stage. Very excited to have them here talking about 420. That's marijuana nerd. Here they are, marijuana reform activist Russ Belville and Ganja Jon. Let's hear it. Joe. Here he is, the khaki wonder, Russ Belville. And, the man's gotta be Ganja Jon.
Yeah.
They would call you that regardless of if they knew you or not. Yeah. Ganja Jon, ladies and gentlemen. Fellas, good to have you here. Russ, this is, I think, your 420th appearance on the Ed Forman Show.
That's right, and in honor of this Ed appearance, I bring you High Times' most recent issue and my article in it, signed for Ed Forman.
Look at that! Yeah! I'm Ed Forman.
You're Ed Forman.
I'm Ed Forman. I get to keep this.
Yes.
This is like a really thick magazine.
I know, like all these, like Newsweek and all these magazines are going out of business. High Times can't sell enough of them.
Well, because it doubles as information and rolling papers, right? And mentioning Newsweek, not that I've ever read that turd. Daddy can't read. It's the same fucking font.
Yes.
Yeah, it is. That and the Bleacher Report.
Yeah.
Well, we figured out who the football nerds are. All right, thank you very much. That is wonderful. I'll roll my doobies with it later. With my brothers. All right. Let's smoke some weed. Well, we can't do that inside. We will all get fired and maybe arrested because, let me ask you, Russ, you are the Surgeon General of getting weed legal in Oregon. When's it going to be legal in Oregon?
2014.
Yeah! 3 years from now, we can wait.
It's already pretty legal.
What's that?
It's already pretty legal.
All right, John, let me ask you about that. You make something called...
Butane hash oil.
Huh?
Hash oil.
Hash oil.
Yeah.
Now listen, I cook my potatoes in that. What's the difference between the potato stuff and your dank stuff? You want to say dank for a second?
Basically, I'm just trying to remove all the plant matter from what's there and leave back only the psychoactive elements.
Fuck yeah. That's what I try to do with my salads.
Think of it as like a beer versus Everclear kind of thing.
I'm not 18 anymore, but ladies, I'll fuck with it. You guys. Man, you should hear at Thanksgiving they play corn and the cranberries. And at Halloween you play the cranberries. Zombie, right? Stop distracting me with your hair and your great keyboard playing. All right, Oregon next year. I just did the math finally. Russ.
Yeah.
What else is next for weed? What's the big weed news?
The big weed news lately out west is people, even in states where it's legal or medical, fighting for other rights like child custody or their jobs.
Weed child custody? I don't get that.
Yeah, there's numerous cases where medical marijuana patients, their ex, or they'll be in some child custody dispute, and the ex will bring up their marijuana use, even though they're a legal medical patient, and the courts will rule against them, take their kids away. Child endangerment because they've got a pot plant in the house.
Oh, boo!
Yeah, I do these stories all the time where, they find a couple growing a pot plant, they'll immediately take the kids away, they'll file child endangerment charges. Meanwhile, if you do a Google News search, you can usually find a case where a kid got a hold of a loaded gun and shot someone. They never take the kids away, they never file child endangerment. So somehow, a pot plant is more dangerous than a loaded gun.
You're telling me George Zimmerman's not in jail, but people with a weed plant and a child?
Yes.
Fuck yourself, government.
That's about right.
How close are we to weed whiskey?
Yeah.
Weed ski.
We're there.
Sam, can we get some weed ski? Because it's just fun to say.
I made a tincture out of Jameson before. I mean, it's happened, yeah.
Oh, fucking shit.
That's one of the great things about hash oil is you can add it to almost anything and it'll just dissolve, like alcohol or fat or something like that. So I can drop, 10 or 20 grams of hash oil into a bottle of Jameson, wait a couple months, shake it up, and get high and drunk.
Oh!
drunk. 5 words: hash oil, vodka, Jello shots.
Yeah! 1 word. I got John close on that microphone. Let's talk about this hash oil. Educate me. What's a dab?
A dab is 1 unit. Like a joint is when you're smoking a joint. When you go and smoke a dab, it's a small little bit of hash oil. Now that bit of hash oil is probably as much THC as a whole joint. So when you smoke it, it's just 1 whole joint to the head right away.
Wow.
Yeah. You gotta use a blowtorch to do it too, so it really freaks my mom out.
You're like some sort of like misunderstood comic book villain.
Yeah.
You got this torch and they're like, put him away.
Yeah.
He's got a kid and a plant and a torch, see? Yeah. And you're just like, I'm just trying to feel better, man. Let's not take him down, but let's speak of feeling better. Give them the story. You had was it kidney?
Yeah, I needed a kidney transplant. I was on dialysis, and I decided on or around my 23rd birthday that I wasn't going to let anyone make me feel bad for feeling good, so I just started getting high before dialysis.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's the best thing I could do. And then started going to cannabis clubs here around and met Russ. Russ gave me a job and put me on his radio show. And then he traveled me around to all these High Times cups. And eventually I started asking all these people who were winning cups, how are you making this hash oil? Show me. I'm sick. I need this. And everybody did. Everybody who's ever won an award for making hash oil has showed me their method. And then I just applied that and, quit working with Russ and won a cannabis cup a month later.
Not that there's any causality involved there.
Right. That was simply a fact, but it seemed like the reason when he said it.
Oh yeah. Russ is merely a trampoline for which we can launch.
Bell funk, baby.
A marijuana trampoline. To bounce yourself into space.
But yeah, I eventually got a kidney transplant. While I was on his show, I got my eye removed, my left eye removed, so I am kind of a supervillain. And yeah, I mean, it's...
I thought you were going to say kidney, and I was just like, Russ, I was like, how dare he not give you more credit when you took his kidney? Russ, like, I sold in the black market, you see? And then, so how do you feel today, Ganja Jon?
I feel pretty good, man.
Yeah, John! We're glad to have you here. Let's talk about another couple things. This is the first time we've had Ganja Jon on the show. Russ does 420 Radio.
Right.
And you got to check that out. But you've done a lot of stuff, and your hash oil is famous. You gave it to a comic at Bumbershoot, right?
No, well, yeah, at Bumbershoot I've done that a lot of times, but I think the story you're talking about happened here in Portland.
Oh, okay. Well, all right, go ahead, tell the kids about it.
Well, he's, Ed's talking about, Brian Posehn, a comic, made a joke about me taking my eye out, and that eventually made him quit smoking pot.
Wow.
It freaked him out a little bit. But, yeah, he's, and now, he was here a few weeks ago, I got him high, so we're back on the wagon.
That's all we wanted to know. That's the great Ed appendix to that story.
Yeah.
By the way, speaking of appendixes, how's yours?
Fantastic.
Great weed! Let's talk about nicknames. Russ, yours is Radical Russ.
Right.
Ganja Jon, that's obvious.
Yeah.
What
He gave that to me, actually.
Well, give
It's
him
all
some
my
more
fault.
credit
Yeah, he
instead
gave
of
that
jumping
to
off
me.
the trampoline and making a bunch of money. You booner. What would my marijuana nickname be?
Oh, Ed Foreskin? I don't know.
I thought it was just, I thought you put the we with the E and D and you get
Weed Foreman?
Weed Forman. Right? We are We Ed. Which is what they called me in London back in 1810. It's We Ed Forman. Catch up, folks.
This sounds like more like a Beatles roadie.
Here he is, back again, it's We Ed Forman. Sort of a Paul McCartney, John Lennon mashup there. It wasn't very specific. All right, let's close out with 2 things. One thing, how 420 Radio. Tell the kids about that in the audience.
All right, 420 Radio is 24-hour marijuana legalization talk radio with shows from coast to coast in America. We've got a show from Spain, show from England. We are just in negotiations to get an Irish show, as a matter of fact.
Nice.
Forman. That's right. Always after me, Lucky Charms. And you can check
pirate. Sorry.
You can check it out on the internet. We're streaming live right now on Ustream and let's see, what is it? TuneIn.com. If you got the TuneIn app, you can get it live there too.
You're streaming video too?
Yeah, right now.
I'm gonna hump the shit out of that camera.
There you go.
First, I'm gonna eat some overpriced truffle fries, and then I'm gonna sex your mouth. Web sex. Web sex.
The Anthony Weiner of late night, ladies and
Hey!
gentlemen.
Thank you very much. I like to be referred to as Tony Boner. Hey, the guy who said say hello to my little friend, that's pretty funny. You come right on the show, I fired the staff. All right, let's government shutdown.
Yes.
Fuck these guys.
The government shutdown has affected the drug czar's office. They have a full-time staff of 88. Currently, only 8 of them are working. But the DEA is completely on the job. But meanwhile, they had to lay off food inspectors, auto inspectors, and pesticide regulators.
Folks, don't eat the chicken.
Don't eat the chicken. It's from China and nobody looked at it.
Right.
Like a weed professor, Ganja Jon. Goddamn weed professor. So the DEA is off their job, essentially.
No, the drug czar's office is off the job, but the DEA is full-time, still ripping up plants and busting patients.
Fucktards.
Yeah.
I don't even know what that means. Seems like a bad thing. Don't you think, though, I mean, government shutdown, politicians on a paid vacation, right?
Yeah.
What are they, high?
They're not high enough.
Okay, they're not high enough.
Yeah.
What sort of... I'm going to give you some names of what I'm going to do. We're going to do a quiz to close. A political weed quiz.
He's going to name politicians and see if we smoke weed with them or not.
Yeah,
That's right. Just like we talked about before the show, except we didn't. It's improvised. Right. I'll give you politicians. You tell me what kind of marijuana they should use, how they should use it. Tony, a very high drum roll. Here we go, everybody. Let's hear it. 420 Radio. Ganja Jon, Russ Belleville. Political weed quiz. Michelle Bachmann. What kind of marijuana should she use to mellow the fuck out and do her job?
Alaskan Thunderfuck.
Yeah! Alaskan Thunderfuck. I thought that's what.
All any woman like that needs is a good deep digging.
Well.
Nice, dude. That was my joke. Wait, you said Alaska Thunder. What about
Alaska Thunderfuck?
Well, what about Sarah Palin?
Lonely, loud. Yeah. Alaskan Thunder cunts.
So that's what she is.
Got so confused.
I've actually met her. I got her autograph on a kitten notebook. Not a joke. It's actually true. I met her at an air show with her sons Trig, Jib, and Derp. All right, John Boehner.
John Boehner.
You want to go with Thunderfuck?
Train wreck. No,
yeah, train wreck. Considering how he's
a train wreck.
I would give him a good chem dog to mellow him out and give him some perspective.
Fucking A.
Yeah.
All right, Obama.
Obama. He needs something Hawaiian. Some
That's
good Pakalolo.
That's like a Pakalolo or Sweet Island Kush or something like that.
All right. Sweet Island.
Yeah, Sweet Island.
I ate that at the food cart today. From John Kerry. What weed would give him personality?
If there was a Frankenstein Kush, I would give it to him. To kind of stop that, but...
Do we make weed powerful enough to give John Kerry personality? Maybe a hash oil. He's gonna need some hash
oil.
Yeah.
John Kerry and oil? That doesn't seem right.
No. No, it doesn't.
That seemed more of the Bush solution. Hillary Clinton. What weed can we give her so she's not such a nag?
God's pussy.
Yeah. God's pussy? Yeah.
I'm down. I don't even know what that means.
The first cannabis cup that he ever took me to, the winner was God's pussy, and everyone was collectively floored.
Well, yeah, if you
Just
look
like,
inside there.
What?
Oh my God. I just was imagining it, and I was like, oh.
Ed wants to smoke that.
I do. All right, and finally, Rush Limbaugh.
AK-47.
There it is. Yeah! Suck that gun, motherfucker! Of course, with an Oxycontin chaser.
Chaser, yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, here they are. Check out 420 Radio. Ganja Jon, Russ Belleville. Let's hear from everybody.
Great time on the Ed Forman Show. I encourage you to check them out. They're on Thursdays, Fridays, and Saturdays there at Al's Den, featuring Them, the band, and a wild cast of characters. He does all sorts of great folks on the show, local news anchors, local mayors. Yeah, so had a good time on that show, so we'll bring you more of that. Stony and Snap appeared earlier on the show. Actually, just Snap did. Appeared earlier on the show as part of one of his Ed Forman game shows. So we'll give you a look at that on tomorrow's show. Little Wiz Khalifa in the background here while we wind things up here on Toker Talk Radio. Coming up next, you've got Weed Nerd at 5 o'clock Pacific time, followed by replays of today's Russ Belville show and Toker Talk Radio at 7 p.m. Pacific. And then at 8 o'clock Pacific time, live here from Rolla J Studios, Herb Thrasher and I bring you Thrasher Sports, little half-hour sports show. Just a couple of guys smoking weed and talking ball. So join us if you'd like. You can join us in the chat room as well. We'll give you a rundown on the latest 420 Radio Fantasy Football League standings, where I understand you're 4-2-0.
Yes, and my opponent this week, I believe the Indica Ninjas, is also 4-2-0. So
420.
It's a 420 matchup.
Right on. And Herb has done well. He picked up Nick Foles, the quarterback who's taken over for my quarterback, Mike Vick, in Philadelphia. Threw something like 4 touchdown passes the other day. So we'll get all that figured out, see who's at the top of the standings in our 420 Radio League. I'll tell you what, it's not the Pigskin Potheads. My team sucks. But a lot of my players have finally gotten off suspension, so we might see some better play here.
We'll see.
Encourage everyone to check out our website at 420radio.org, where you can visit our shop. It's at 420radio.org/shop. That's hard for me to say sometimes. /shop. And we've got downloads of my PowerPoint presentations, downloads of my Excel trivia game, the 420 Radio drug test. You can get the 420 Radio and Russ Belville Show pins and stickers and more. Just visit 420radio.org/shop. Or become a VIP member today. That's at /donate. The monthly support is very much appreciated here. Couldn't do it without you. You're helping to pay the bills, helping to pay the rent, everything. Keep us running here at 420radio.org so we can keep this information free and open for everyone. From coast to coast and around the world, the fight for marijuana legalization goes on. Stay tuned. At 6 o'clock in our replay, you'll get to hear Kevin Higgins and Luke Ming Flanagan, who is, to the best of my knowledge, the only sitting elected official at a national level who is also a board member of NORML. Now, George Rohrabacher was a Washington state representative, but not while he was on the NORML board. Mm-hmm. And I'm hard pressed to think of any other elected official who's working in, there's a lot of former judges that are in LEAP. Okay, so you got that. And a lot of former cops as well. But that's pretty amazing. So stay tuned at 6 o'clock for that. We got the replay of that interview with the member of the Irish Parliament, Luke Ming Flanagan, and member of NORML Ireland, Kevin Higgins, will be joining us. They also have a documentary coming out in November. We'll have them back on the air in November to discuss that and the fight for marijuana legalization on the Emerald Isle. We want to expand 420 Radio all around the world, all around this country. If you know people that want to get involved and help by contributing content here at 420 Radio, just let me know. Visit our contact page at 420radio.org/contact. It's all the time we've got for today. Thanks for joining us. For Brian the Red, I'm Radical Russ. Until next time, take care of each other, Tokers.
This is the Russ Belville Show. The Russ Belville Show is blogging and podcasting daily at radicalruss.com.
Take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you